All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the H Radio 123 part-timers. Welcome to another week. I've kind of lost track. I'm guessing it's week 10, I think, of I think we got to the end there. Another 4 weeks. I do know we do have up the semester, and then you do your summatives in your case. And well, we're nearly towards the end there, so just keep on keeping, and we'll get there in good time, and obviously with a lot of time to spare. I'm saying lesson wise, so we can do some revision and also have a look at your summatives as we move along. So, okay, this week is a public holiday week, hence the pre-recorded lesson. And so please do take time to again, I mean, you are right now listening to this or watching this, and that means you have put in some extra time, which is obviously mandatory for your learning into these particular two lessons, and make sure that you do follow along and also do the exercises so that you are prepping well and also growing in terms of, I say, prepping well for the summative, but also, again, as I always say to you, don't focus on summatives and formatives, and let your, again, growth focus on the fact that this is for your career moving forward. All right, creating content, part 7 of 14 from Nash and Cullinan. I was going to add them together at Nullinan, but it's not working for me. Chapter 4, page 129 to 139, 38, should I say? And show prep services, the RIP formula, and Johnson's techniques. Okay, so while we go through this, once again, as you know, I've picked out, so particularly two videos that I do want to share with you. And the one is about basically it's some advice from he's a professional. He's been doing I think just over a decade in radio. An American guy, doesn't matter the way it comes from, right? But giving some advice on how you can just how do you enter the industry? How do you get in there and obviously showcase yourself? Which I think is an important message at any one point throughout your learning, and not at any one like only particular point in your learning. So we're going to look at that, and then we've got my old friend there that he just keeps now popping up in my feed. But I do like him, the guy from Radio.co, who's going to chat about a producer and what their roles are, etc. So because we're doing radio production now, we're doing production, show prep, that type of stuff, right? At any one point, also just remember, I'm saying at any one point in your career, at any one point in your learning, remember that a presenter needs to also know how to be a producer. That's just a given. So you will be able to produce your own shows throughout your career. And let's just let this move on. Yeah, but it is being difficult today. All right, let's just go there. What its issue is, excuse me. That's all. There we go. Jeez Louise. Anyway, I'm so sorry for that. Okay. All right. So before I think it's actually, you know what? Let's do this. I'm just gonna quickly snap out of this. And what I'd like to do is actually start this lesson with the video from radio.co about. So let's stop it there. And I'm going to go to the radio.co video so that we can have a good lengthy introduction to what a producer is all about. Okay, so second here, and it is going to load.
Hey, it's James Mulvaney today, back with another video on radio. And today I want to talk about the underdog, that is the radio producer. Now, radio producers are crucial. Fundamentally, the producer will sometimes be completely off air, e.g. you may never hear them speak on the radio. But more and more these days, we're hearing radio producers kind of getting involved and part of the show. So they might be kind of like a second voice or a second opinion alongside the main presenter. But what does a radio producer do? And what's the point of having a radio producer? That's what I wanted to dive into today. And in a little bit, we're also going to be talking to Sheena from Foundation.fm, who is a radio producer. She is their main producer. She focuses on creating a lot of their content output. So I really wanted to quiz her on what makes you a good producer and kind of get some insider tricks. So, sounds good? Let's get straight to today's video. So if you're new to this channel, my name is James Mulvaney. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been working in the radio industry for the last 15 years, helping lots of people launch radio stations and get results with their radio stations and podcasts. I'm founder of radio.co, podcast.co and matchmaker.fm, all doing really interesting things in the audio spaces, so you can go and check them out if you like. And also really passionate about helping people launch their radio careers and get established with online radio stations. Now, as I mentioned, radio producers, really crucial to the radio industry. So fundamentally, what does a producer do? They are responsible for things like drafting the contents of the show. So when you listen to the radio, you hear a presenter and they might be talking about specific things at different times of the show. It's normally the producer's job to say, okay, this is what the show is going to look like today. You know, say at 8 p.m. we're going to be doing, you know, whatever, we're going to be doing a news bulletin, or we're going to be talking about a local event, we're going to be talking about a festival or a concert or whatever it might be that you're talking about at that specific time. So it's really the producer's job first and foremost to dictate what is going to be the output of that show. But the involvement of a producer really is much more detailed than that. They might be pitching ideas for shows themselves, they might be coming up with ideas for competitions. It's really the creative input that goes into a radio show or running a radio station that the producer is mainly responsible for, and it can be a really interesting and varied job. So whenever you're listening to the radio and you might hear a crazy feature or some call-in thing or something that's going on within the show, it's quite often the producer who will have actually concepted that idea and come up with it, and it's the presenter or the host's job to then actually present that and kind of make it sound cool, make it sound exciting. It's really just their job to take the idea and actually turn it into reality. That's the difference between a radio presenter, or radio host, or on-air talent, or whatever you want to call them, and then the producer. But as I mentioned, the crossover between the two these days is a lot more common. I think in the old days you'd quite often get a producer who was sat literally in another room behind another piece of glass, talking on like a talk back to the radio presenter in the studio, and they almost would be like completely separated. Nowadays, more than often, the producer presenter are sat in the same room together, in the same studio, just talking face to face, and quite often the producer, as I mentioned earlier, will actually be part of the show nowadays as well. The producer will often have meetings with station management. So, for example, if the station management are trying to push a particular artist, or you know, they're running a big competition, or they're running having issues with a certain type of advertiser or whatever, the producer will ultimately feed that information back into the show. So making sure that the output of the show that they're responsible for, or the shows that they're responsible for, are kind of in line with what the management are trying to achieve in terms of the business model of that radio station. So again, really, really important. Obviously, if you've got a sponsor who's coming in saying, look, we're supporting this show, you need to make sure that the content of the show is really in line with what the sponsor is trying to achieve as well. So again, producer's job sometimes is to link the commercial aspects of the radio station to the kind of the creativity, the fun aspects, what you want to hear as a listener, and even sometimes the music itself as well. The other thing that producers spend a lot of their time doing these days that people perhaps might not consider is the behind the scenes stuff. So I'm talking about like editing. So perhaps the show has a podcast, or you're kind of clipping out sections of the best bits of the show for social media, or updating the social media channel while the show's actually going on. Again, a lot of these responsibilities will often fall down to the producer, or sometimes the assistant producer. Sometimes you might have an intern who's working alongside them, or someone who's more of a junior level. Again, just like with a lot of roles in different industries, producers, you can have executive producers who generally are responsible for multiple shows across the station, the producers who are working on each individual show, and things like assistant producers or assistants, or tech ops or admins who are kind of more responsible for the individual components of a show itself. So different layers, and again, the bigger radio companies will have more layers of management. Smaller radio stations, you might have one producer who's sitting across multiple shows, and quite a lot of the time with small radio stations, the presenter as well is sometimes also the producer. So you might be producing your own show if you're a presenter or a host, which basically means you're kind of responsible for manning the ship, driving it forward, repairing it, doing everything that there is to do with the ship, which can again become quite involved. So what I thought I'd do now is talk to Sheena, who is a producer for Foundation.fm, a fabulous station that we work with in London. They are a predominantly female-led radio station, and we went and met them last summer. They've got a really cool setup down there. So here's what Sheena had to say about the role of a radio producer.
So my name is Sinead Brooks and I'm a producer here at Foundation FM, the female-led radio station, which is on air 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. Monday to Friday. So day to day, I, create content. I call myself the annoying or not cool auntie who's just in the room making sure everything goes to plan. I schedule, I book guests in, I'm just like everyone's like right hand really if they need anything, and a bit of everything really. My secret sauce is to just not stress too much. Like with radio, it's so fast paced that every day it's normal to stress, and really just take a step back. We're not saving lives, we're here to have fun. And I find in radio everything does fall into place, so just not to stress too much and be organised as much as you can, but don't over organise, because there's days I over organise and then everybody, you get a guest that cancels or something like that and you're like, oh, there was me being over organised and now I don't need to do that anymore. But yeah, secret sauce, don't stress. My thing is to tell them, you kind of talk them through their first links, and then I kind of say, just act like you're talking to me. We're friends now, let's go for it together. And then after like the second link, third link, you usually find that people forget they're on radio and they are just having fun, so. Just good energy, and good energy doesn't always mean like the loudest or the funniest or the quickest. It's just being like fully yourself and knowing what it is that you want to achieve in your show. So if it is you want a show about just music knowledge, make sure you are the one that has the best music knowledge. Or if you just want to do a show where it's high energy, then come with that high energy, but just be like 100% yourself, and naturally you'll just fall into it and go with the flow, and like listeners will hear that, and that's what will make them engage. Advice would be, make sure to do like your research. Like don't just go to a radio station and be like, I want to be on air. Like, why do you want to be on air and why do you want to be on that radio station? So even if it's only listening to one or two shows, find one that stands out to you, so then when you're then emailing those stations, the person reading will be like, oh, okay, they actually rate us, they don't just want to be on air. Because there's so many people that want to do radio, but you then ask them a question about radio and they're like, oh, I don't know. And it's like, but what are your reasons for wanting to do radio then? So I think definitely just do your research and really find what the reasons are why you want to do radio, and if you do want to do radio, what kind of radio do you want to do, and then go search out for that specific type. What I love is just how it is a safe space. Like sometimes you don't really realise that until you're having a conversation. And I was saying how many times we've come into work and do you want to cry or sad? And here you can do that and not be judged for it. Not saying I come in every day and cry, but you're not judged for it. We all just talk about, and if you have an issue here, it's not your issue, it's everyone's issue. Like we'll figure it out together, so no one should stress. Like we do that with like presenters, producers. There's no need. We're meant to be having fun in radio, so there's definitely that. So you can listen in on foundation.fm. You should also check out our Instagram because we're always telling you what's going on and what guests we have, and on our Twitter, and just stay in the loop to know what's happening. So yeah.
So I had a really great time chatting to Foundation.fm last summer. Be sure to go and check them out. They do some really interesting things. And thanks for Sheena for talking through her role and giving us some tips and advice on what she does on a day-to-day basis. I think production and going into radio as a producer, fascinating. You know, there's some really interesting things you can do. It allows you to express yourself creatively. It brings some really cool ideas to the table. Radio shows would not be as good without producers. I'm curious to know if you're a radio producer or if you're thinking about going to radio in a behind the scenes capacity. Let me know in the comments below. Or if you've got
Right, that's where I'd like to stop. So we've seen the interview with that particular lady in a smaller context before. So I'm not repeating the entire thing. And even if I have repeated, well, I've put in a different video here. At a lot of the concepts have been I've covered already by radio.co. It's really important to kind of drill it through for yourself as well. Very again, as we know, just kind of watching these things again, always kind of affirmates what it is that we understand about a specific content piece or context or a concept, should I say? Anyway, love it. That was really good. You can also see that, man, and not to be judgy or anything. You can see she's a producer. There's different personalities that match different roles in radio, and as you can see, she's very kind of, I say, a bit more clinical. Very, what's the word I'm looking for, man? She's very organized. Um, and obviously very, very passionate about what she does, and also very knowledgeable about the product as well. So, and her presenter, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing as a producer. You got to know, as we've mentioned before in previous lessons. Just want to stop this share. We'll go back to the class. That you really, really have to be there for, showcasing that presenter and know exactly what it is that's going to make them a whole lot better, and what's the show, what is going to make the show a whole lot better too. Okay, let's look at some theory here. And then I also want to, and it's fine when we get there. I'll get to it. I'm going to do a precursor to that, but we'll do some practical as well. Successful broadcasters are ferocious planners, right? That are simultaneously able to be spontaneous with confidence. So we know that already. We know about the whole ability to be able to say what you need to say when you need to say it. Yes, prep is one thing definitely that allows you that confidence and liberty to say, like kind of that ad hoc stuff, that impromptu stuff, and add a lot of your personality to whatever it is, and your opinion, right, and your input, responses, that type of thing, reactions that are very real, with a lot of emotion and a very direct, also present, I can carry on. But that allowance is allowed by good prep, right? Okay, that we have a good foundation in the prep that we have for that particular show. And then we are allowed, like I say, that liberation of being able to be a great presenter around that as well. So Lane proposes that the following guidelines be followed during the preparation phase of a show. When you do prepare for a show, every single show obviously must be prepared individually, and so it is a daily job. If you have a daily show, an on the go job as well. So in other words, again, it's kind of like call screening, the kind of like the breaking news aspect of it, the controlling, who's maybe on the line, preparing interviews, that type of stuff. Plan for all segments beforehand. That's very important. Okay, that you look at prep, that all the segments are covered within the prep, right? And they covered, yes, but they're also again well comprehend they're comprehensive to the largest extent. When I say the largest extent, something that is a good balance between moderation, or that is moderation. So good balance between obviously too little and too much, right? So it's got to serve the purpose again of, as I say, if you're not there as a producer, right, then the presenter should know exactly what it is that they have to do within that particular show. Perhaps maybe again, if you're not there, it's all the instructions there, all the phone numbers there, all the cart numbers on there, everything is there, right? The station promo and activation, whatever it is, the rollout is there. Like I say, who the winner is, how to go and maybe, what are you going to post to social media, whatever it may be, right? Okay, hold weekly planning and brainstorming meetings, right, with your teams. Okay, if you have a team, you're going to definitely hold daily meetings. If you have a bigger show, um, I'm going to say daily meetings. We're talking about face to face, right? So you'll be at the station, and you'll have this more larger corporate involved meeting, for example, with the breakfast. But every single show will have a meeting with their producer, should they have a producer, right? Or with a team member, should they have a team member, right? So plan to insert the character and the personalities into everything that you do. Prepare and build the links with a P2 listener in mind. So that listener that is selective, has a selection of radio stations that they might choose to listen to on a regular basis, and we want to be able to draw them in, make them listen to our station a little bit longer than the other stations that they might fluctuate to. Okay. All right. So plan for all segments beforehand. We're going to break this down, right? So in the previous lessons, we did speak about how important it is to have a solid plan for the show. And I don't have to continuously talk about it because I'm going to do it to death. And well, let's keep it at I say its basis, but to its most complete understanding or explanation of it. So you know why prep is important. We know why a plan is important. So we're going to take into account obviously the hour for each show, the content for that type of hour, and the format of that link, right? So, for example, we have maybe 3 hours, and we understand that our audience, for example, is not that active maybe in the first 45 minutes of the show, right? But are quite interactive, let's say, in the next hour and a half, and perhaps maybe have, let's say, gone into the office or um, have moved out of, let's say, or they've maybe gone to the gym or whatever it may be in the third hour. It depends. Like I'm looking at a breakfast show, for example, right? So we can also apply that again to any other show. Like, what are you doing at any one particular time in the day? We'd know that from our listener composite that we would create, and also through the research that we have done as well. And again, common sense as well. Common sense, like what is a person doing at this particular time? If I know my listener and I know that their type of lifestyle, I would know where they are. Like on a Saturday afternoon, a Saturday evening, a Sunday morning, that type of stuff as well. Okay, so that's how we account for the hour. The content type, then obviously, again, for that hour will be dependent on that hour. We'll say I'm using the breakfast show as an example, where I said the first 45 minutes, maybe they're not that interactive, right? So we'd have a lot of, let's say, like team conversations. We'd obviously cover the news right in that 45 minutes. We'd play more music as well, and then we'd start talking, like bring up like these, let's like newsworthy topics and conversations at about, let's say, 22, 7 o'clock. Let's say we start at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? So the content for that type of hour, and then and what interview, let's say, might I have, or what content piece would I draw up for that 22, 7 o'clock particular point in my hour, right? 10 to 1 would probably be a good idea to do something that's quite interactive, because if we look at 6:40 in the morning, everyone's in their cars, they're ready to chat to somebody else, I'm saying other than themselves or their kids or whatever it may be, right? And so they would probably be interactive, they'd be stuck in traffic, and so they'd like to have a conversation starter at at that time. An interview could be quite nice, maybe after 7 o'clock. Maybe do a feature somewhere around there too in the next, like I say, in the next hour, and definitely a competition if there is, and there probably will be on a breakfast show most of the time, right? Okay, so it would give away definitely while they are in their cars at the height of traffic, like just before they get, like, let's say, 7:30. Um, 7, quarter to 8, maybe people are arriving at work, right? So they're definitely stepping out of their cars. And it's not to say that we don't have any listeners after that. We have listeners all day long. But what are they doing? Again, they could be switching you on at the office. 10 to 1, they probably won't. But we have a lot of people waking up, and they've gone to gym, and they are maybe they're working from home. Do you understand? So that particular maybe 8 to 9 o'clock hour is very important to them. It's kind of their starter. of the day, but a little bit slower. I would say a little bit lighter as well. Um, it could be a good suggestion for that time. Okay, and then the format of the link, as I said, it could be an interview, it could be a standalone piece, it could be a pre-recorded piece, it could be voxes, it could be, like I say, interaction, it could be a competition, whatever it may be. Okay, so it's now time to fill that link with actual content. So we'll use the planning sheet to help us with the process, which you're going to see in just a moment, and you'd have to apply yourself with this particular format. Okay, and again, we must disclaim to you at any one particular point that there are many different ways that many different people at many different stations would like and can do and do their own format for their prep. Okay, so they execute their own way that they look at the structure, the way that they obviously segment it, whatever it may be, and call it different things if they do, so we are showing you one way that's a good approach, an effective approach, and it is quite lengthy. When I say lengthy, it's good for you in your first year to know. Listen, let me do it this, but let me do this bit by bit, so that I can understand how something might work on air. Okay, so the planning sheet starts with a reminder of the execution rule of four. Planning out these four rules is the cornerstone of any great piece of content. What are these four rules? The hook, the payoff, the point of view, and maybe what else, right? So again, many different structures and many different methodologies that we have taught you up to this particular point, and you will learn so many more in second and third year, because again, radio is a craft. There's a bit of an art to it, and a bit of a, well, I'm going to say, like a bit of, not a bit of a science, but you understand there's practicality to it, and there's definitely more than just the creative element. Okay, formatics is a best way, is a better way to actually tell you or explain that, right? So, from the answers of these questions, we're able to create a link planning sheet which will look like this. Okay, so I'm just going to, I know you can read that. I'm just going to view it just a little bit more. Okay, so the link planning sheet. We start with the story. We headline it as a story summary, and the emotivity, right? Emotion, like what emotion are we trying to, extract from that particular listener, get that reaction from them as well. Write down the exact emotion that you might feel, because you're going to propagate that, and obviously, um, to that listener, right? So if it's serious, if it's thoughtful, my thought provoking, if it is shocking, if it is whatever it is, like it breaks your heart, you'd write that emotion in there, right? So then write the emotion you wish to evoke by telling the story, right? So you would tend to want to say maybe it's the emotion that I feel is that I find it quite funny, right? And the emotion that I want to evoke is basically laughter, lightheartedness, that type of thing, right? So with the promise, remember the promise is the teaser. So we're gonna script a teaser just over here, a nice original, tantalizing, titillating teaser over here, and the hook for that particular, the hook, obviously the introductory piece, the first, let's say, 7 to 20 seconds of that particular piece, as we've seen in previous classes. How does the hook actually look like, right? The point of view. So, is it a personal story of your own that relates to this topic? We want to be able to know that at some particular point in that link, you are bringing in the aspect of yourself. So it doesn't mean that you actually have to have had an experience, but you will definitely have an opinion, a portion of you that is contributed to this particular piece. So a story that you heard about, okay, the topic, right? So to put in that meat there, little beef there. So what thoughts are in your head? What opinions do you actually have? And then so that forms up the what we previously might have known as the crumbs in the dress up, right? And then we have the payoff for the punchline. So what is the resolution? How will the link actually end? All right, where we maybe ask them a question, if it is a call out, right? And then we take the callers, and then we end that particular piece, with the closing thoughts, and not to make it too, again, don't make it too formal. Don't focus on that closing thought to make it so like, like let me leave them with an opification of life, right? It's not about that, right? But it's just a simple, clear, and concise ending to your piece. Okay, so here we go. All right, so then we look at the what else aspect. What else can we do to make it bigger and add more layers? In other words, do we want to add some sound to it, some sound bites? Maybe we have an interview, like a 3 minute interview that we can have. Maybe we can cross over to a field reporter. Perhaps we can maybe play out a viral piece that has gone out, and before you even think about making it go viral, shareable, and did you hear that moment? Okay, like let's make sure that all the content and the different dimensions of the content are in that particular link. But then also, again, you must know, how am I going to post and pre-promote this as well on social media, for example. So a pre-promotion always necessary. Post promotion, most people do. Ideally, you want to do that for a complete kind of like a sequence of what you're doing on air. You don't have to do it for everything that you do on air. Not everything is worth, I say, not because it's bad radio, but just because the elements of that particular piece are not really, I mean, they don't have, there's, I don't know, you can tell, man, you can tell. And please don't share everything on social media. I'm saying as so your audio pieces that you're doing, kind of the recap or whatever it is, don't share everything. Everything is not shareable, right? But for those that are definitely, you want to be able to do that kind of post production for that, right? Okay. All right, so the link planning sheet, once the above is filled out, it can now be documented into four parts of the actual link as follows, right? So here's where we can just break it down a little bit further as to what type of link it is. Is it a character story and a storyline? So is it telling a story about somebody or different characters? So maybe different people within a political story, or it is, like I say, it's an anecdote where you're explaining things about there was you and a cashier, or you and the bank teller, or you watched two people in the street. What is it about, right? Is it serialized content? In other words, like, do we have this piece here today, and it is a continuation of what happened yesterday and what will happen tomorrow? So, serial content, serialized content. Out of studio, are we going to include any box pops? So us talking to people on the streets, quote unquote. So at an event, at a concert, like at there could be like a fair, there could be like you at a doctor's office. Perhaps you with a professional. I'm saying to you in any other aspect that you could only have a conversation with them somewhere in their space. Like it's a box pop, right? Okay, and yes, some of those can constitute as interviews as well. The whole point of a box pop, ideally, right? Again, I say the voice of the population. Like we're looking for different voices at a certain, maybe at the polls. It's at the voting polls, right? We'd like to chat to a number of people that are actually voting at that particular time, and ask them various questions around one umbrella topic, which is how they feel this year about like the progression of South Africa, as they place their votes. Okay, so listener games, features or promos. Guest interviews, phone a topic, so the interactions when we ask something again from the listener, and they do respond. Produced skits, sketches, and parodies. A lot of production, a lot of obviously, scripting, comedic timing, holidays, right? Seasonal content, Christmas content, and events, concerts. Maybe it happens every single year that you have. Um, as we did the promo with a Cotton Fest. It might be Joburg Day, it might be the cycling challenge, whatever it is, right? So something new and buzzworthy. So a new Nike advert or a television show, right? That has sparked a controversial interest, or it features, like a collab between two of our biggest artists from different like music genres or music formats, whatever it is. And it's great. We must chat to them about it, whatever it is, right? A video and a viral piece, either created or found, or anything else, right? So the promise, once again, what's the promise, right? So the teaser, what is the hook, the setup, and the payoff to break it down. Okay. Right. Excuse me. Let me just go here. All right, let's get into the practical now. So every link, regardless, right, of the nature of that particular link, should be planned, documented, and executed using the previous planning sheet. Again, so in the beginning, please use the structure definitely for your formative or your summative, should I say. You must use that structure when we do ask for it, and get a bit acquainted to it, okay, or with it, right? So in this, hold weekly planning or brainstorming meetings as we go through those four elements that we did speak about. So in this weekly meeting, each producer, presenter, or anyone involved in the content has ideas that they come prepared to that particular meeting. So it isn't a waste of time. I saw this, whatever it is. Particularly me, like now, always whatever I come across, I'm looking now at my phone, particularly because I want to actually just go to when I sent myself. I normally send it on WhatsApp, to myself, different things, so that when I go to, let's say, plan the show, I might find something that could be interesting. So, for example, I've got the most bitter sibling rivalries in history. That sounds pretty cool. I want to try an activation with Planet Fitness, I said here. There's stories about recruitment agencies. There's a TED conference here where it says, "No one will ever pay you what you are worth." Great conversation starter, right? There are pitches to Mensa, like what is Mensa about, with all the clever people. And then also, I came across the new Corinne Bailey Ray's song, which she hasn't released one that I know of for like maybe, what has it been now? Maybe 12 years, called a song called "He Will Follow You with His Eyes." And also because I like the religious aspect. I'm guessing that's it. Otherwise, it could be quite weird, if she's talking about a man. So I would, let's say, go to a prep meeting with my co-host, which I do have a co-host on the show, and I would bring up some of those ideas. A lot of them might not work, right? Okay, but maybe a lot could actually be uh, you know, dissected, or maybe we can deconstruct them, I suppose, right, into what could possibly work, right? Okay. So yeah, as I said, go to the week's meetings. I again have a weekly meeting with my co-host Kanye, and we get it done. And throughout the week, when I say we don't have continuous meetings, we will be in contact with one another should we need to confirm meetings, see how it's going. Have you gotten this person? Like that type of thing, right? Weekly, weekday meetings, every daily meetings, right? Are again for daily shows, must be had. Okay. Anyway, radiowarfare.com introduces their prep services as a way to supercharge your radio station or show. So that's an option there. I don't believe in prepping services, but obviously I'm a bit like um uh said said when you are there's a word for it that I'm not going to use, but we all know, like, you're sticky about stuff. You're frumpy. I don't want to use someone else's um, prep service, right? Bits and Pieces fmjock.com is a prep service from the UK. They describe their offering as a full of topical gags, daily competitions, talkers, phoners, and Facebook prompts to get your show interactive, right? So we're going to look at so if you just grab your textbook, grabbing one here, as you can hear, 132. At one, let's go there, 132 to 136. And we'll look at some of the examples. Yeah, some of the examples. First examples, just to follow along, otherwise you're gonna be a little lost, right? First example, 4C, a subscription service, daily chat. So Dr. Dave's ultimate prep sheet which comes from Dr. Dave's Ultimate Prep.com, is a subscription service that delivers stories and ideas to your inbox. Let's have a look at some, not all, of what this Dr. Dave's Ultimate Prep Sheet can include. So, for the daily chat on Thursday, the 25th of October, 2019, one, make your Halloween pumpkin last longer, a topical story for Halloween. Two, pearly white teeth is not enough, interesting and weird fashion story. Children and credit cards, parental and personal finance advice. So let's have a look at the pumpkin one. And I know we don't really celebrate Halloween here in South Africa, but the Americans are very hard on it. So making your Halloween pumpkin last longer. The bottom line is, so what do we want to get to? Tips to help prevent your pumpkin from rotting. Because we've always well, I mean, I don't know. Again, I always say I love America. Like, I just think they're so fascinating in so many different ways. And of course, again, leaders of pop culture always fascinates me and interests me. Again, we've seen some horrendous pumpkins that had been fraught for days before, and even days after Halloween. Right, a short topical article from Halloween in October that listeners might find interesting and helpful. People spend a lot of time and money creating their Halloween pumpkins or jack-o'-lanterns, right? So this includes finding the right specimen, cleaning it, cutting it into your own design. After going through all this trouble, they obviously want the vegetables to last long and not to rot within days. And the article provides some good tips. So on page 133, let's both look at the page together, see the points that they say about how to keep your pumpkin fresh. Okay, so buy from a local shop. Pumpkins that come from afar are more likely to be damaged. The second one is clean out the inside properly. Do not leave any seeds or fibers inside the vegetables. They are prone to mold and will obviously accelerate that rotting process, right? Use chemicals. So give the pumpkin a bleach treatment after you have cleaned it. Dilute a liter of water with a tablespoon of bleach and spray it on the inside of the pumpkin. It will prevent mold from growing. Interesting. Didn't know that. Okay, not that I'll do it. Again, it seems like a lot of work. Okay, so do not leave your pumpkin out all night. Heat and cold make it rot sooner, and keep the pumpkin as is. It might defy the point of having one, but not cutting the pumpkin at all will make it last much longer. So that makes sense because we don't only say we, well, I'm not American, come on, but I just told you, fascination. Might as well be. I'm American at heart. If you do look at a lot of the gardens and again, kind of that decoration of a lot of the pumpkins are actually not cut as jack-o'-lanterns or any kind of. There's been so many variations. You can cut it as your own celebrity star or like a cartoon character or whatever it is, or even your own family. You can cut into there, or you can have those paid services to do that for you. But a lot of the other pumpkins around, these decorated ones are, just fully fledged, untouched ones as well. Make for nice decoration. Okay, so the points are nice, points are clear, points are obviously very useful as well. So what are the thought starters, right? What could we possibly talk about in this particular piece? Okay. How early do you carve your pumpkins before Halloween? So how early do you decorate the house? Like we know that as something that we do here in obviously South Africa for Christmas. A lot of people start in November, and we all see the adverts that start around, like I said, the first week of November. So we want to kind of follow suit, right? So it makes sense that the Americans would do and decorate a little sooner, right? That whole Halloween onset, that onslaught. Okay, so have you ever created a jack-o'-lantern that did not even make it until Halloween? Do you go for unique jack-o'-lantern designs or classic ones, right? So the one with again that little it's the jack-o'-lantern face, it's the scary face, that they paint cut out, etc. The other one I do want to look at is okay. Let's go. So you can go and have a look at the pearly white teeth and the children and credit cards. I want to look at example 4D, which then is on page 134. Okay, so the daily subscriber based preparation sheet. So let's look at what is given to you on, and quite a lot is actually given to you on Monday, the 1st of July 2019, bottom of page 134. Today it says here 30 days until the Rugby World Cup, 11 days until CONCACAF, right? Today's day is Arbor Day, so they celebrate Arbor Day, which is again American. World Tuberculosis Awareness Day, again, something that we all can celebrate. Events. We don't have Arbor Day. Do we have Arbor Day? Ooh, I don't even know. Anyway, it sounds like an American holiday. Anyway, events. Jacob Zuma to appear at state capture hearings. Gauteng is running out of water. Today's birthdays. 1950, Peter Nkosi, he's a celebrated artist. And in 1963, on this day in history, Monday, not Monday, just the 1st of July, Abraham Smith, a renowned South African architect of Nelson Mandela's Stadium, the Nelson Mandela Stadium, excuse me. Right, so the birthday quiz, a question about someone who is celebrating their birthday today. So, South Africa's author born in Herschel, is that right? Herschel, there we go, Eastern Cape. And that's Zakes Mzor. So, South African one liners for weddings. New research shows so called blessers are less likely to pay for child support. Right. World one liners, the world's biggest pancake. The Guinness Book of Records on Saturday certified that a pancake baked in Holland is officially the largest pancake that has ever been baked. Members of a church group in Amsterdam were raising funds for a mission to Equatorial Guinea for cleaning up beaches. And you can say to yourself, I mean, who flipped it over? Because you have to clearly do these things to actually gain the world record as well. There's a phone, a text, a Facebook option where you can say, what's your favorite pancake filling? Are you a sweet or a savory type of person? We continue because I want to get the day complete, right? So entertainment news, there's options there, right? And I know this again, this is it's very persuasive to go and say look at these particular service providers, these prep service providers. But I do again believe in just pushing it for yourself. Let's quickly go here. Last little bit, yeah. Okay, so in entertainment news, Easy Rhymes Gauteng rapper is being sued by former girlfriend for paternity costs. Easy Rhymes says that he has never even met the complainant. Right? Wow. Okay, so this is like the how many time he has been sued for making babies with women that he says he doesn't know. Also, didn't know that, so quite interesting. Okay, here's a word puzzle. The brain, for your feature called the brain gym. 4 walks in the road, 4 swings in the road. What am I? A cow is the answer. That's weird. 4 walks in the road, 4 swings in the road. Oh, that does not make sense to me. I would have never gone that. Survey of the day 90% of men are self conscious about which part of their body are their legs. That's interesting. For fear of them being very thin. Interesting. Okay. 5 things that we learned this week. Cats in Namibia must, by law, be licensed. Toyotas are the most trusted vehicle brand. South American men have the most children per capita. Woof. Okay. Babies born with red hair are most likely to become criminals. That's terrible. And the most beer. Sorry, that one about the redheads is getting me. The most beer in South Africa is sold in Bloemfontein. Okay. So nice stuff, interesting stuff. And again, if you get a reaction out of it, I get a reaction out of it. That means 10 to 1. It's not a bad idea, right? Something to be definitely pivot from and kind of again just enjoy. Okay, we're nearly done. Let's look at the RIP formula here. The RIP formula from Stone and Geiger is a method of making sure that the content that is being processed or produced, should I say, from sources other than the one's own that you own in your own thoughts follow these following characteristics: are researched, I internalized, and P are performed. Other helpful tips and guides that Stone recommended include taking the now researched and internalized content, right? And then asking yourself certain questions regarding the following. And guess, it's coming up now in just a moment. The RIP formula, the type of music or the sound effect you might want to use in conjunction with, let's say, what it is that you want to do, the number of people who should be involved in the segment. Are we having an interview or guest? Are we having three or four, a band there, whatever it may be, right? If you need someone to ask a question to get things going, right? So if you need someone to call at the end, a kicker to get people to call in, and if the material lends itself to an audience quiz, a mock news bulletin, a fake advert, or a humoristic sketch, in other words, to use some kind of satirical angle, then go ahead and include it, right? Then, once the content is ready to be performed, Stone recommends rehearsing and then re editing the content if needs be. So, these things are some suggestions from Tracy Johnson, that provide further tips for content creation. Definitely using contrast, right? In your link, as I said there, different angles, different dimensions, different perspectives. Very good. Resolve a conflict or a dilemma, right? So something that listeners are having trouble with, they're confronting in their own current day, their life, seek the extreme to kind of get their attention, right? You don't have to do all of these things. You can do any and or, right? So the top 10 list could be fun. Top 10 is a bit too long. Maybe make it a top five or a top three. Make it a game. Add a guest. Discuss personal life and opinions. Create unique, original content that only you can perform, right? By adding your X factor and using a prep, right? Service a story, using a prep, right? So if it's a story from your favorite website or a personal story, using the above techniques to create a piece of radio content. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the next lesson with that. Okay. And what I want to do to end the lesson is just be able to end with that particular video that I set you to kind of keep in the back of your head. So we don't have the lesson be too long, right? Um, but I want to start that nice and fresh with a good content piece. Use those different aspects that break down of the link itself that we showed you. Where is that? Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay, and let's enjoy this. Right? Yeah.
Coffee. Uh, this is going to be your best friend if this is what you want to do. Become a radio personality. Trust me. Anyways, my name's Corey. You want to learn how to become a radio personality, a DJ, disc jockey, whatever you want to call them nowadays. We prefer on-air personality. I'll get into that, where you can look for jobs, some places you may not know of. But first, qualifications, because I think that's, why would you listen to me over somebody else on YouTube or the internet? I have over a decade of experience. I've been a manager, program director of three different types of formats: top 40 rhythmic, top 40 mainstream, hot AC, adult contemporary. I've been mornings, middays while you work, afternoons while you drive home. I've been on air at night, which I'm doing now. I'm in DC. I'm also heard in Tampa, Minneapolis. I reach over 3 million people on a week with the stations I'm on. So over a decade experience, somewhat qualified. But anyways, if you want to be on the radio, I mean, there's other videos out there and they say hustle hard and internship and all this, which is true, but this is going to be a little bit more meat and bones to help you get there, and that's what this channel is going to be about the broadcast industry, if that's what you want to pursue, podcasting to make you a better communicator, to reach more people, just kind of involve all that. So the first thing is you got to get your foot in the door. So how do you do that? Well, internships obviously make sense. However, there's a problem with that. There's not as many internships as there used to be because of lawsuits against companies. So some
companies don't even offer those anymore, which is a shame. That's how I got my start, free internship while I was working full time at Target. So without that, how do you do it? Well, you got to get in another way. So maybe you target the digital team, the promotions team, and you get in part time there. And then from there, you just network with the other people building, the program director, the on air personalities, and then hopefully then that leads to something else. Another thing is this industry is so small, it's all about who you know. Not so much what you know, it's who you know. I have a degree in communications. Did it help me with this job at all, getting into radio? No, but it's good to have. I recommend getting a degree, but don't go for communications if this is what you want to pursue beyond the radio, because it doesn't do you any good. So the best thing you can do is reach out to people at your local radio stations around the country. People are more than happy to help you out. Listen to what is your audio resume. It's called an air check. You send out, your voice talking over songs, the ramps, the instrumentals of the song, and seeing what your personality is like, see what you sound like. Maybe you'd be a good fit for this station. That's how people judge you to whether they want to hire you or not. So what you can do is you can put together basically a fake air check, send it out, and get critiqued on that from other people. So what you do is you just go to radio websites, find on the contact information program director. Here's the thing, do not be annoying. Send an email. If you don't hear back, maybe you won't. You tried. You just go to somebody else. Keep going until somebody does respond or multiple people respond, and then there you go. You've got yourself a little network. They can start giving you tips and hints and whatnot and feedback, and get the ball rolling basically that way. Everybody's on social media. So find your favorite DJs there, find people in your town, your city, whatever, and hit them up on there and say, hey, can you give me some advice? Can you critique this for me? And there you go. You made yourself a connection. And if nobody else hits you back because they all suck, find me. I will be more than happy to help you out. Corey on radio, guy right here. It's also below in the description. But follow me there on, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and hit me up. I'll be more than happy to help you out. Energy drinks, if you don't like coffee, that's another good route to go. That's the best thing you can do. Network. When I was working Target full time, I was working for free at the radio station. I would put together fake air checks, and then I'd just send them out to any and everybody. I didn't know any of them, and eventually some people did hit me back and gave me some advice, and once again, got the ball rolling there. So that's the best thing to do. There is a lot of rejection in this business, so if you don't take rejection well, this will help build that up for you. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of people you'll never hear back from. Like I said, even when you've been in the industry for a long time, it's pretty cutthroat. So this will help build you up for the future. Or maybe you just want to find something else to do if you don't deal with rejection well, because get prepared for it. But a lot of people, like I said, won't respond back to you. Find the ones that do and just attach yourself, and don't be annoying. Just, be inquisitive. And, like I said, there are a lot of good people out there. You just got to find them. I will, like I said, more than happy to help you out. Find me, I'll help you out. But besides that, it's just being persistent. Don't give up, no matter what you do. Don't give up. When I first was trying to get into this full time, I remember I asked somebody who was in the business, and they're like, oh, do it as a hobby. You'll never have any luck. And this was 2008. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll keep trying, because it's what I want to do. And it's worked out very well for me. I'm in a top 10 market. I'm in, like I said, reach over 3 million people a week. So yeah, if it was that bad back then why am I doing so well now? I didn't give up. And so that goes for anything, whether it's this industry or another industry. Go for what you want. Don't listen to other people, because there's a lot of naysayers out there. I need a refill soon. Now, as far as what you send out, I can get into a very in-depth video on that. And by depth, I don't mean like a 30-minute video. I just mean like, 5-10 minute video of what you need to actually do if you want to send out a package, which is what they're called, to get a job. Just let me know, comment below. But basically, once you do have your stuff together to send out for a job, there are some places you can go besides just hitting up, websites of those radio stations and going to contact information, job, employment. Sometimes they do list that there. Some not so good about updating it. So there's other places to go. Go to the major radio companies' websites. iHeartMedia. Go to Town Square. Go to Cumulus. Go to Intercom. Go to just their company's website, and then they'll have it listed for each city what they're looking for. And here's something I want to kind of go back to when I said at the beginning, when I say get your foot in the door by anything like digital promotions to get a job. Do not, if you want to be on the radio, do not get into sales. There's nothing wrong with sales. Sales makes a lot of money, but once you're in sales, you're stuck there. There's no thing getting up to the on-air side. Now, very rare cases where that does happen, but very, very minimal. You're basically pigeonholed there. You're not getting out. Do not get into sales if you want to get on the radio. Bottom line, okay? There are some websites to go to besides the websites of the companies. You can go to allaccess.com. It's a free website to sign up for. A lot of great information there in general, too. Not just about being on the radio, but podcasting and stories and whatnot. I would just take some time, if I were you, sign up for the free account. Just kind of search around, check it all out. But you'll see on there, there's a forum for jobs, and people post jobs. And, you know, what they're looking for, qualifications, whatnot. Definitely check out allaccess.com. I'll post it below as well. Then you've got other ones, Radio Insight. You've got Country Air Check Weekly, which is for country music. Check those websites out and just get familiar. You know, here's another key thing. If you want to get into the radio, be willing to move. I don't think enough people talk about that. I have moved over the course of 12 years. I've lived in like 6 different places. So I'm averaging every 2 years I'm moving. And I do that because I'm moving up. Like I said, I'm in now a top 10 market in the country. It's because I've moved. And very few people stay in one place, or very few people get to work where they grew up, their hometown. So be prepared to move. My first job was 1,000 miles away in tiny Ithaca, New York. So be prepared to move. Just send your stuff out. Be prepared to not hear back. Be prepared to get rejected, to be like, oh, we don't like your voice. Listeners say that. I've had that many a time. Just being persistent. Keep sending stuff out. Keep trying to get better on camera. Record yourself when you can, even if it's with your phone, because if you're comfortable on camera, you'll be comfortable in front of a mic. But I can do more in-depth videos about this stuff. Just let me know below. Just tell me, you know, questions you have. I will respond to you. I'm really good about that. Find me on social media, Corey on radio. Throw the E in there, otherwise you'll find some creepy Corey, and trust me, you'll think I'm that guy, and I'm not that guy. Yeah, anything I can do to help you out, answer questions below.
All right. Very nice, very informative, and I hope that you got something out of that. Okay, I'm going to end it there. We'll start the practical in the next lesson. Cheers.